Hi, everyone. This is a slight shift over from what I've been doing, but I've been feeling really compelled by the guides to present something from them directly to everybody. And I think this is making sense when I look at some of the consistent themes that are coming up within the readings for everybody across the board. So I decided to do this. I'm going to try to keep it short, and I'm basically really just offering what they're telling me to offer. It starts with this. We are, of course, in an environment right now on the planet where there is confusion and chaos and conflict, and it's bringing up a lot of really negative emotions for people. Negative emotions, fear, sadness, hopelessness, apathy. And that is the nature of a heavy frequency, and that is the nature of the kind of frequency that creates chaos, conflict, all that stuff that we don't like, or some of us seem to. However, those of us on a path of consciousness generally tend to really shy away from that because we know inherently that does not align with our deeper selves, that does not align with that part of us that is spiritual in nature, that is sacred, and that recognizes life in general as sacred. But what I'm being told to remind you of is this: we are all sacred. That the nature of being sacred in the human form is a very interesting and often conflicted place for people. And that is because in the desire to maintain that loving frequency, that higher conscious frequency, we are still dealing with the personality that is very human, that is of this earth. And this earth is a place of polarity, of negative and positive. So what the guides are saying is this: we must be mindful as we are evolving in our spiritual nature to maintain the understanding that our human psyche, our personality, has been raised in a context of difficulty, of conflict, of right and wrong, of polarity, and that there's going to be a tendency to want to stand for what is right in the way that actually perpetuates the thing that we are resisting. What we resist persists. And so what they are saying is this: in the midst of all of this, if you're sad, your heart is opening, where can you take that heart space into a higher frequency? If you are feeling angry, what value is being challenged in you? And what does it say about what you want to speak for? Because what they're also saying is that this planet is at a point of evolution, and that it is absolutely necessary, in order for the frequency to raise, for the difference between the light and the dark to become so evident that it creates its own transformation. It may not look like that. It may look like it's being stepped backwards, but what they are asking you to remember is this: this is the first time on this planet where there has been worldwide access and acceptance to a very large degree of the existence of higher power in a way that supersedes religion. It is the first time where the source of communication, by its electronic nature, is actually more aligned with the higher frequency of group conscious mind. And therefore, as much as there can be misinformation and miscommunication through that media, there is also far greater capacity for those who are wishing to evolve to a higher state of consciousness and to work in this alignment with peace, with compassion, with harmony, with unity, to have access to those of that frequency who are supporting that evolution. Think of these people as the guideposts or the tuning forks for that frequency which you wish to be in. You are being cautioned to please stay aware of when you find yourself getting caught up in the fight against something or someone, because that is not the nature of energy that will allow for transformation or shift. It will just entrench more of that energy in you, in the other person, and in the world around. It's not talking about putting your head in the sand. It's recognizing that this nature of conflict and chaos that is being created in the world right now is a necessary part of the evolutionary process as we are moving into higher frequency. And that as the planet moves into higher frequency, the old manner of dealing with conflict will not be in physical aggression against one another. It will be within the context of debate and cooperation. So those of you who are seeking to become a part of this new evolutionary concept of operating in oneness, yes, there will always be negative, positive, and neutral on a planet such as Earth, which is a planet of polarity. There will always be that way because the polarity is part of what creates the stimulation and the momentum towards growth. Being on this planet and coming face to face with those things that are so directly contrary to the state we wish to be in is part of what forces the growth. And please remember that one of the key elements to this growth is to understand the nature of how to work with that which is in opposition to your spiritual values. That it is not about getting down into the mud and rolling around with that. It is about understanding that at this state of evolution now, where the planet is, the greatest change happens from the top down. That as we, as a collective of people who wish to see peace and prosperity and abundance in a loving, compassionate, cooperative way, have the ability and the right, and yet the obligation perhaps, to be a part of the group consciousness, that higher frequency that we feed into the group consciousness, and that energetic impact will filter down into those and help open those who are on the brink of understanding it and soften those who are not. The other thing is to remember that as your frequency is raising and as you are adjusting as individuals, that you can become more empathic, and that by being more empathic without having learned how to ground yourself and contain your energy so that you can choose not to receive information. For those of you who are still at that stage, it's going to be very, very important now for you to learn how to manage your energy so that you know what is yours and what is not yours. Because as the static in the unified field accelerates, you're going to be a lot more inclined to be affected by it. You may have had very strong personalities and ego structures prior to this, but as you're evolving into understanding yourself differently, it can be very challenging for you to maintain that and contain that increased frequency that is evolving itself within your body and your nervous system. And there's one more thing that they want to say. And what is that? To please remember in all of this, that this is a process of evolution, that this is a process of growth, that everyone, no matter what party, what political group, what country they are in, everyone has chosen to be here on this earth at this time to grow. Do not be fooled by the fact that some people look as though they are not growing. They may simply be choosing or have chosen to grow in another way, or have not yet learned what they need to learn. that you can have your model of what is sacred and what is holy and what is good, and you may run your life according to those values. And that's extremely important for those of you who hold peace and harmony and cooperation as your values, to do your ultimate best to stay in the frequency that you hold dear, even when you are working in a concrete way to create change, because some of you are. So those of you who are in the world, working at a grassroots level to affect change, whether it's within organizations, whether it's within protesting or volunteering, for those of you who are in it, and that being your way of learning, it will be even more challenging for you to maintain those concepts that Gandhi and so many of the other peace-loving advocates that have existed throughout time, and there have been many, there have been very, very many, that it's important, it's absolutely important for you to remember that it is your job to stay within the frequency, and if within the context of working with groups such as Martin Luther King did, that actually being out in there working with it, if you cannot be in it and maintain your frequency, it is your job to step back. It is all ultimately our jobs to understand what it is we need to do to stay and exist within that frequency of higher consciousness, because we are connected to the group conscious mind. And what we put into it is what will be harvested by others. So we are all being called to look at what we need to do to honor the sacred in ourselves, to honor those values, to honor them in everybody else. That is also crucial. It's hard to do that unless you've first done it in yourself. So I'm not even sure exactly what I've said, but I'm going to leave it at that. I have a feeling they would keep talking if I let them. But no, that's fine. It's going to be short. But there may be more next week. I'm not sure. I'm thinking this might be something that becomes regular. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how everybody likes it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care. God bless. Take care.